Well, good afternoon and welcome to PBALC's Literacy Speaking live stream. Today we are excited to welcome author Olivia Taylor as she discusses her new book, Welcome to the Paradise Motel. We're happy to have you. That's such a fun title, Olivia.
Thank you. I really like it.
Well, introduce yourself and tell our viewers a little bit about yourself and then we'll get into discussing the book a little bit.
Yeah, so my name is Olivia Taylor. I'm coming to you live here from the office of the Mark Twain Journal where I used to work, and they very kindly let me use their space.
So wait a minute, Olivia, what is the Mark Twain Journal? What is that?
It is it's like an academic journal all about Mark Twain, so like any kind of history related to him, but they also have a lot of like just Mark Twain casual reading subscribers as well.
Wow, that's awesome. Okay, so I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Yeah, no. I think, doing a lot of reading about him and like regional writing really helped inspire me as I was writing about like America and Florida. I'm kind of thinking about like where you come from.
Awesome. So, your new book, Welcome to the Paradise Motel. You are currently teaching at Baylor University out in Waco, Texas, right?
I am.
Awesome. So you are teach American literature, and you're finishing up your dissertation on what? Tell us.
On young adult novels that are adapting different Shakespeare plays. So I've done one on the Twilight series and Romeo and Juliet. So it's a lot of fun thinking about how these different stories kind of take Shakespeare and reimagine him within their world, because it's something that I like to do as well.
That is so interesting, because when I was in high school, Shakespeare was very confusing to me. So I love that you're adapting kind of Shakespeare into kind of modern version, I would say, modern version of Shakespeare. So people like me can understand it, because I always felt, I just had a hard time understanding Shakespeare in high school.
Yeah, sometimes the language
Great.
can be like a big challenge sometimes, but the stories can be really fun.
Yeah. So once you understand what the story is, you're like, oh, okay. So, and that leads us to your book, because you adapted Welcome to the Paradise Motel to a Shakespeare play. So tell us about that.
Yeah, so my Welcome to the Paradise Motel is this retelling of Shakespeare's play Much Ado About Nothing, which is set in the fictional city of Paradise, Florida.
Okay.
And Much Ado is my favorite Shakespeare play. It's kind of a blueprint for the like enemies to lovers, a lot of rom-coms, and it's just very fun and playful. People are, falling in and out of love. There's drama, there's gossip, scandal.
How fun. I think that was one of the plays that I never read in high school. So I didn't know that that's kind of what it was about. So you were in a production. You were actually in a production of the play, right? When you were a teenager. Did that help with the inspiration of why you chose this particular play?
It really did. I already was interested in the play as I was participating in it, and like, when you're in the play, you like see and hear like the whole play every day. So you get really familiar with like the story and the language. I was actually I was kind of a background character. I was Margaret, who becomes Meg in the story.
Okay.
But yeah, in the process of just like hearing the actors like bring the language to life, it really helped me like connect emotionally to the play and fall in love with the story. There's a Kenneth Branagh film version of it that also like kind of cemented my love for it. It's very like fun and beautiful, really charming cast.
Well, awesome. Well, I know that you adapted, Welcome to the Paradise Motel to Much Ado About Nothing, but how did you I guess, choose or develop your characters so that they could be like the same version in your book as the one in the play? Were they based on characters in your life or?
That's a good question. I think it's thinking a little bit in terms of like what are their roles and how does that like adapt to like a modern, like how can we like adapt those roles to a modern setting. I think all of it's like drawn from life in different ways.
Uh-huh.
Let's see, so like Beatrice, and sometimes it's thinking about like sort of like general types of like what people are like. So Beatrice is becomes this like journalist for the local paper, as kind of like the teller of the story, and she's very
Uh-huh.
like sassy and opinionated. um, and let's see, and then her friend Honey, who's actually in the original play, she's her cousin, but yeah, in this they're like just became close friends. So her character in the play is named Hero, and she's very like sweet and like good with people. So I decided it would be cool to make her like an elementary school teacher. Um,
Uh-huh.
Honey's also sort of this archetypical character of like she's someone that like everybody really loves, everybody really like wants her. Um, so kind of thinking about her, she's also very like whimsical, so kind of a Disney princess character.
Yeah. And so tell us about how you chose Paradise, this imaginary Paradise, Florida location. That
Yeah,
stemmed from your experiences as well, too.
it did. So I grew up in this small beach town, Fernandina Beach, Florida. Lived there for about 20 years. I still visit pretty frequently. And it's a small town on the coast near Jacksonville. So that's up in North Florida. So it's more, smaller town, not like super skyscrapery, a lot of like history,
Uh-huh.
lots of pirates. So most of the pirate stories are kind of flavored from the
I've
pirate
heard of
history of the day.
Fernandina, believe it or not. I've heard of it. I think
Nice.
it's like in a crime
There's also
show,
that.
but yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, because there is this image of like it's sort of this like very idealized place, but it's also a place where real people are living.
Uh-huh.
Um, and then I went to college down in West Palm Beach, which is it's kind of a very different side of Florida, much more fancy, much more urban. And so Paradise became this kind of like mixture between these two places because I wanted to incorporate elements from both. So I put it in Central Florida as kind of like a literal between point. So it's kind of near Daytona. Like it's a little bit, you get the like ideal of like the clear water, and there's like, you're like in this situation where you're interacting with like kind of fancy, powerful people, but also kind of the smallness and closeness of the community that mirrored kind of the closeness of the community in the play.
Yeah. And so tell us again, tell us why you chose to when we're talking about places, why did you choose to have it in a motel?
So I one of my dorms in college was an old motel, or a couple of them were old motels that had been converted into dorm rooms.
Really?
Yeah.
That's so interesting. That would be fun.
So I would always like imagine like what was this like when like people were like staying here when it was like all
Uh-huh.
cheerful and colorful. Um, but also wanting to have that kind of like close community and like familiarity you get with people from dorm life. So I wanted to
Uh-huh.
kind of create that environment in the Paradise Motel.
That's very interesting. And so what do you hope is the biggest takeaway that you want readers to take away from this story or any of the future stories that you will write?
Yeah. So I have a big poster of the cover of the book that I take with me to book signings. And somebody
Uh-huh.
who's came said, they were like, wow, I really love this. I just kind of want to crawl inside and live there. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's the experience I want people to have with this book, that the Paradise Motel is this place that you can come home to, that there's always like a room ready for you, and that
Yeah.
there's these friends here to welcome you.
And maybe like a sense of community, right? You talked about that. It was like you felt that whenever you were living in the motel dorm rooms, and you wanted to create this sense of connection in the within the communities, that they're all, they gossip and all that stuff too, but there's, they care for each other.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, this community of care. And that came out of, I started writing this during the pandemic. So I was like taking, walks on the beach because that was the place you could go, which is interestingly called Peter's Point. And Peter's one of the characters in the book, which I didn't actually draw that connection at the time, but because he's based off some like other fictional characters called Peter. And also it's like a fun Bible name, so it had that fun flavor to it. And it's like anyway, there's a whole series of things. Let's see. But yeah, and so I was like, what I really wanted, in this like time of isolation was like sort of this idea of community.
Yeah, because they all just build that community within that motel, and like I said, there's drama and all that other stuff too, fun stuff that comes with small town and small community, but there's also connections and friendships that develop. And so would you like to read a selection for our viewers at this time?
I would love to. Yeah, let's see. I'm going to read a little bit of, and this is one of the parts that pretty closely follow or is similar to what's happening in the play when the Bee and Ben, who are the main characters, their friends decide to trick them into falling in love. So yeah, all the characters are in my version of the story are like very nerdy. So they're playing this tabletop game, kind of like Dungeons and Dragons, and it ends with a reference to like how different fan fiction stories are labeled online. But it also shows you like the dynamics of how they're related to each other in this story.
Perfect.
Or how they connect to each other. Okay, so Friday was campaign night, when Peter and his friends crowded around the elaborate gaming dining table in his apartment. They laughed and argued as Peter, the GM, spun their choices into increasingly improbable adventures. "What is taking Bee and Ben so long?" Peter grumbled, rolling a handful of dice absently on the table, which was covered with an assortment of makeshift paraphernalia that marked the boundaries of their imaginary world. Honey glanced up from where she and Charlie were cuddling in the corner. "Looks like they're fighting again." She waved vaguely towards the dining room window. Peter looked out just in time to see Bee push Ben, who was fully clothed, into the swimming pool. "Oof," said Peter, darting to the window for a better look. "That water's cold." "Wonder what he said this time," said Honey as she and Charlie crammed in next to Peter to get a better view from the small window. This resulted in Honey getting squashed against Peter's shoulder, causing him to momentarily short-circuit. He pulled away and tried to get himself back into GM mode. "I'm definitely incorporating that into the game tonight." He headed into the kitchen. "Does anybody want more wine? It looks like they're going to be a while." Honey shook her head in mock exasperation as she watched. Bee was standing at the edge of the pool, laughing at Ben as he floundered in the deep end. "And this is why she's still single," said Honey, waving one of the enormous sleeves of her lilac velvet gown for emphasis. She was the only one who dressed up for the game. She was also a surprisingly ruthless player. "I got the impression that she's single because she likes being single," said Peter from the kitchen. "Sure," said Honey. "What's that supposed to mean?" said Charlie, following her. Honey hesitated, wondering how much to share of what she knew and guessed. Peter caught Honey's eye as he filled up her glass and gave her a conspiratorial smile. "You know, she and Ben would make a great couple." "Did I miss something?" said Charlie as Peter filled his glass. "Because last time I checked, they hate each other's guts." Peter shrugged. "There are worse places to start." "Heck yes," said Honey. "Kate Stant all the way." Peter suddenly wondered if Honey was in fact behind some of those swashbuckleriad fanfics. He picked up the small red and blue figurines that served as the markers for B and Ben's characters in the game, and then spoke in his GM voice. I've got an idea that should bring Beatrice the Bold, here he waved the red piece aloft, and Benedict the Grandiloquent, here he brandished the blue piece, from the swamps of loathing, represented on the board by a mildewed dish sponge, to the top of the mountain of affection. He placed 2 figurines on the top of an upside-down plastic cup. But I'll need your help to do it. Will you join me on this quest? Roll for it, said Honey. Okay, rolling for bluff, said Peter, shaking the dice vigorously and throwing them on the table. 20, said Honey. Beatrice X Benedict, enemies 2 lovers, 20,000 words. Peter's eyes glittered with mischief. Oh, I think we can do it in less than that.
What are they up to, these characters? They're up to some mischievous things here. And so an interesting tidbit that you told us is that at the beginning of each chapter, oh no, I think we're losing Olivia there. Let's see if we can get her back here. We may have lost Olivia here. Stand by. We're having some technical difficulties.
Hi.
There we are. Technology is so much fun, isn't it?
It is.
Especially when it doesn't work properly. But I was saying that you added an interesting tidbit at the beginning of each chapter of the book. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so, and this came from the fact that, like, B is a journalist, so a lot of the little opening bits of the book are, like, clips of the newspaper articles she's writing that give us a little bit more info about the characters and also about B. And then as I went along, I started, like, adding different genres as well that give some of the other characters room to talk. So there's some fan fiction from Honey, there's a blog post from Ben, there's a news article from B's, like, nemesis.
That's so much fun. Well, looking at your cover of the book is so stereotypical Florida, just like and it just reminds me of the Golden Girls for some reason. And I just love your cover. Great artwork there, and I love that you adapted this book to a Shakespeare play, so I can better understand it, and people like me can understand it. And it just sounds like so much fun. Your book sounds like so much fun.
Thank you.
The characters are just you can tell are just they're characters.
They are.
So Tell us, what other projects are you working on, or is this taking up a lot of your time right now?
This is a lot of the time right now, but I have a couple
Mm-hmm.
other ideas I'm kicking around. There's a retelling of a book called The Scarlet Pimpernel I'm thinking about in kind of a
Oh,
regional
yes.
setting.
That'll
Um,
be a good one.
yeah, and also a retelling of the Canterbury Tales, like in space.
Oh, that should be interesting. Well, we'll look forward to seeing what that looks like, Olivia. And so we always ask all of our authors that we interview, because we enjoy reading and we're very proponents of reading. What are you currently reading? And give our viewers and our followers some recommendations.
Oh, nice. Let's see. So during the school year, I'm a big audiobook listener. So right now, I'm in the middle of Eclipse in the Twilight series, which I have a lot of feelings about. It's a very like stormy place in the series.
Uh
Uh,
huh.
and then over the summer, I read this really delightful, like Regency murder mystery called A Terribly Nasty Business by Julia Seals. Uh,
Okay.
yeah.
We'll have
So
to look into
yeah,
that, see if we can get her on. Well, where can people get more information about you and your books? Are they sold everywhere? Books, are your books sold everywhere, in on like on Amazon and Barnes and Noble? Or where can we find you?
yeah. So basically, any online major retailers. So bookshop.org is usually where I tell people to go, but it's also on
Yes.
Barnes and Noble and Amazon. There's Kindle versions available as well if you're more of an e-reader person. And then there's also a couple local bookstores kind of scattered around the southeast. Fabled Bookshop and Cafe in Waco, Texas. The Book Loft in my hometown in Fernandina Beach, Florida, which was so fun. And Hub City Books in Spartanburg and Books and Books. And then you can also find me and the books in person on October 11th in Belton, Texas. I'll be at Blackbird Book
Okay.
Fair.
Fabulous. So if they want to see you in person, go check her out. You're going to be at Blackbird Books, correct? On
Mm-hmm.
October 11th?
Mm-hmm.
Fabulous. Make sure and go meet Olivia and get her book and have it signed. Well, we want to thank you so much again, Olivia, for joining us this afternoon, and make sure and check her out on social media and her website, or go and visit her in person on October 11th at Blackbird Books. Otherwise, if you can't make it in person, her book is available anywhere books are sold. We also recommend bookshop.org, or if it might be available at your local library if you don't have the funds to purchase it. Hopefully, you can find it at your local library. Otherwise, check them out at bookshop.org, or any. We highly recommend purchasing from independent bookshops. So if you can do that, if there's not one in your local area, then go to bookshop.org. And we will see. Thank you, everyone, for watching, and we'll see everyone next time. Thank you, Olivia.
Thank you so much.